Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hoai Ca channel. Today's story is full of shocking twists you won't see coming. The woman who once brought nothing but pain to Hoai Ca has just been released. Most people thought she'd go straight back to hurting Hoai Ca again. But what she does next will leave you speechless. Instead of confronting Hoai Ca, she shows up in front of Tusan, her own daughter. A daughter she once forced into a marriage with a wealthy man, condemning her to a life of tears and heartbreak. Now, years later, she's back. But why is it a late attempt at an apology? Or is she planning something even darker? Tusan, a single mother who has endured so much, now finds herself facing the same woman who once ruined her life. And the most terrifying part, the truth that may finally come to light, could change everything. Stay tuned until the end to uncover the chilling secret behind this woman's return. Down the empty village road, Mrs. Tieu walked slowly, each step weighed down by years of secrets she'd never spoken aloud. Deep lines carved across her face told a story of hardship, regret, and shadows from a past she couldn't escape. Every few houses she stopped knocking gently on the worn wooden doors, her raspy voice asking the same haunting question. Do you know where Tusan lives? Most villagers turned her away with cautious eyes, pretending not to remember. Others, after a long pause, whispered directions as if afraid their words alone might invite trouble. Straight past the banyan tree, left at the narrow lane, you'll find her house there. At those words, Mrs. Tieu's frail hands tightened around an old scarf, her heartbeat quickening. Whispers and stares followed her down the road, each one a sharp reminder of sins that could never be erased. Still, she pressed forward. Finally, the humble home of Tusan appeared beneath the fading light. Mrs. Tieu froze at the gate, her breath uneven, her body trembling between running away and moving closer. And then, driven by sorrow, or perhaps by something darker, she reached out and laid her hand on the creaking wooden gate. The moment of truth had arrived. Tusan stepped onto the porch, her breath catching the moment she saw the figure at the gate. That face, etched with time and regret, was one she could never mistake. For a moment she froze. A flood of memories came rushing back. The forced marriage, the endless nights of silent tears, the chains of a past she could never escape. And yet, with sorrow in her eyes and honeyed words on her lips, Mrs. Tieu stirred something inside her daughter. Against every instinct, Tusan reached out and unlatched the creaking wooden gate. Inside, Mrs. Tieu looked around in disbelief. The neat walls, the simple but well-kept home, it wasn't the picture of hardship she had imagined for the daughter she once abandoned to misery. Tusan had built a life on her own, brick by brick, meal by meal. But to her, this home wasn't a symbol of peace. It was a scar. Every corner reminded her that none of it came from her mother's love. It came from the price she had been forced to pay. As Mrs. Tieu sank into the bamboo chair, exhaustion clouding her eyes, Tusan's heart tore in, too bound by blood, yet poisoned by betrayal. She had spent years searching for answers, only to be met with silence and the bitter truths whispered by others. And now, here sat the woman who had thrown her youth into ruin, asking for forgiveness. Forgiveness. The word itself felt like a knife. How could she forgive the mother who turned her into a pawn for money and pride? How could she erase the years of humiliation, the nights spent crying under the roof of a loveless marriage? Mrs. Tieu spoke of regret, of mistakes of wanting to make things right, even daring to ask for a place in her granddaughter's life. But to Tusan, her words were salt in an open wound. She wanted to scream, to ask, "Did you ever think of me? Did you ever care what my future would be when you sold me into that nightmare?" But her voice broke before the words could leave her lips. Only tears remained. The house grew heavy with silence, every breath suffocating. Mrs. Tui begged for another chance, pleaded for a place in the life she had destroyed. But for Tusan, the truth was clear. Some wounds run too deep, and some betrayals can never be undone. Forgiveness, if it ever came, would not come today. The sound of footsteps broke the silence, and then Hai appeared in the doorway. This time, he didn't hesitate. He stepped inside with quiet certainty, his eyes locked on the mother and daughter before him. Without a word, he positioned himself beside Tusan, directly across from Mrs. Tui. In that instant, the small room seemed to shrink. The air pressed tight into a suffocating triangle. Mrs. Tui flinched at the sight of Hai standing so firmly at her daughter's side. In her aging eyes flashed a moment of unease. She knew instantly his presence had shifted the balance. No longer would Tusan bear the weight of pain and betrayal alone. Now, she had someone steady, unyielding at her side. Tusan glanced at Hai, her heart steadying under his silent strength. He didn't need to speak. His presence alone was enough to calm her trembling and remind her she was no longer defenseless. Whatever choice she made today, she would not face it alone. The air thickened with tension. Mrs. Tui pleaded her weary gaze, reaching for mercy, but her words crashed against an invisible wall. That wall was no longer just the pain of the past. It was reinforced by Hai's unwavering stance. He didn't glare with contempt, but his steady, solemn eyes carried a message: Tusan is no longer yours to control. Inside, Tusan's memories surged like a storm. Her stolen youth, her shattered happiness, the nights of silent suffering. And now, the very woman who had orchestrated it all sat before her, begging for forgiveness. But with Hai beside her, Tusan knew opening her heart again would mean tearing down everything she had fought to rebuild. Hai stayed silent, but his silence carried weight like a verdict. His presence told her, "Whatever you decide, I'll be here. But you must be strong. You must protect the life you've rebuilt." For Mrs. Tui, that silence was crushing. She realized her daughter had changed. Tusan was no longer the naive girl she once could bend to her will. She was a woman now resolute with someone to lean on. And then the moment came. Tusan rose, taking half a step forward. Hai stood firm beside her, his presence unshakable. She didn't need to scream, didn't need accusations. Her cold, unwavering gaze was enough. It was her answer. Her heart had closed. The door to forgiveness would not open again.